I'm going to really dive deep here on the Great Resignation. Really, three questions I want to answer for you today. One, like, what is it? It's caused a lot of confusion. Some people think it's about retirement. Some people think it's about changing attitudes to work. It's all of that is the short answer. But after we talk about the lay of the land, we're going to then pivot and talk about, well, what explains this rise of quitting, the rising acceptance of quitting and the prevalence of it. And finally, we're going to talk about the future, whether the Great Resignation is like a new permanent shift in the job market and it's a permanent shift in recruiting challenges. We're going to scrutinize that and see if the future has any insights for us before we turn to the recruiting tactics. So let's get started. I'm excited. The Great Resignation, what is it? Let's start there. In short, it's the rise of quitting. We see here quitting is on the rise. It's frankly at historic all-time highs. As far as the data that the Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks, the share of workers in a given month, that's the blue line, who quit their job, hit 2.9% in August of this year. That's the highest point ever. And we find that the quits rate in a given month is particularly high in sectors and industries that are predominantly filled with lower wage workers. So leisure and hospitality, these are restaurant workers, hotel workers. The quits rate in August of this year for leisure and hospitality workers was more than double the overall quits rate. It was 6.4%, which is just astonishing. You see the huge spike there. We're going to explain that in just a second about why it spiked so high in August. And the Delta variant, just as a teaser, it definitely plays a part in that. But if I showed you other sectors in the economy, the general trend of quitting is upward, whether it's manufacturing or retail or business services. And I need to pause here and emphasize that from economists' perspective, this is a good thing. This, frankly, is an indication that workers feel empowered, that they can go out and get another job, because in most cases, when there's a separation where it's voluntary, where the worker quits, it's usually because they think they have another job lined up, or that they, want to test the waters to get a better opportunity elsewhere. So that reflects, frankly, strength in the economy. It reflects growth. So usually when quits rates decline, like if you look at this chart, how it declined in 2008, 2009, that's usually a bad sign. It means that the economy is taking a downturn. So quitting is not necessarily bad for the economy as a whole, even though it makes quite a challenge for HR professionals who focus on retention, and it makes it a challenge for recruitment talent acquisition leaders who find that quitting is an indication that the labor market really favors workers. So let's dive deeper, though, into just what is this Great Resignation? What is this rise of quitting? This chart I'm showing you here comes from a former colleague of mine, Ben Castleman of the New York Times. He tweeted this out. It's a chart of the quits rates, the month-to-month separation or job-to-job separation rates for workers by education level. And what I'm trying to emphasize by showing you this chart is that quitting is really a phenomenon, a quote-unquote, blue-collar phenomenon. And some people don't love to use that word, but what I'm trying to get at is whether you use the term working class or blue-collar, those with less education have really seen their quits rates rise. Now look at the red line here from Ben's chart. This is those with less than a high school education. And you see the quits rate just rise steadily throughout 2021. And not just rise, but far surpass the levels that were seen in 2019. Now, if you look further down the chart, those workers with more education, with a bachelor's degree or even more education, their quits rates have also risen this year, but they're not even back to where they were in 2019. They're just kind of rebounding from the pandemic recession that caused quits rates to decline. Again, when there's a recession, when the economy's bad, quits typically decline, and when things pick up, quits increase. But we're seeing something different here. It's that workers with some college or with just a high school education or with less than high school education, their quits rates aren't just rebounding, they're soaring past all-time highs. And frankly, it's the seismic shift of the Great Resignation that's really focused on those lower education workers and lower paid occupations that really is going to be our focus today.